Hi friends, my name is Ram and this is session 5 on Oracle REST data services or Oracle RESTful data services. So this is an introductory session on ORDS. What do you expect from this session? Agenda or objective of the sessions you can take away from this slide. After completing this session, you should be able to understand Oracle REST data services, that is representational state transfer, why we need REST web services, understanding REST, understanding JSON, and Oracle REST data services, the release history, Oracle database, how it works on that, and serving JSON result from the database. By the end of the session, you will be able to understand each of these terms, and definitely you will be ready to implement and install ORDS on your Oracle 12c, which we have installed in the previous session, and I'm sure you have watched that lecture. So Oracle REST data services. Oracle REST data services or ORDS, it makes it easy to develop REST interfaces Oracle databases. ORDS is available both as an Oracle Data Cloud service and on premise. An architectural style of defining, publishing, consuming APIs and services on the internet using HTTP, that is a formal definition of REST. The real definition, if you want to understand in the simplest possible way, you can call it as a high-level protocol for exchanging data across HTTP in a computer and developer friendly way. That's the simplest possible definition of REST data services. Representational state transfer REST. What you see is we have API, we have web, internet, and we have the databases. So how it works? We need to understand describe how internet works. So REST actually describe how internet works for that, and that is software sharing the data. That's what usually happens. But a contemporary replacement for SOAP can be thought of as REST, and what we mostly talk about it in terms of web services, that is exchanging data between the web and the database, and that's how we usually refer to it. Why do we need it? We need it as a development solution for web or JS based or mobile solutions. It's a huge uptake across vendors, open source and IT industry. It's a common language for integration solutions, available available wherever the web is available. You use this. Let me take an example. You use this browser. You see this is a browser window. You use it every day. You use a web browser, Internet Explorer or Google Chrome. Even right now you are using it. So you use a browser. Like this is a website. This is my website, theskillpedia.com. So if you type the URL in the web browser, you type something like this: https://www.theskillpedia.com/all-courses/index.html. If you want to understand with respect to REST, you just have to understand this URL and you'll get the definition. So you enter the URL to get a resource. URL is comprised of a remote server where you type www.theskillpedia.com. that is a remote server. It also consists of a path like all courses in this particular URL. And finally, the URL is a web page in this particular case, but it may be a different type of media. It may be image, it may be a video, it may be an audio file. So a web page, basically we can talk it as a resource and of a specific media type. So this is very good an example of understanding REST, how you work on it and how you use it. So let's look at a little more definition. What you use in the browser is a designing part as an application layer. What you use is you use HTML, you use JavaScript, you use CSS, right? So you use HTML, JavaScript and CSS. When you type this URL, what exactly happens? It's not human accessing the resource, it is the software using this language and the scripting, right? Using these tools and techniques, you use the resource, you call the resource, and they are accessing the remote service, which is on the remote server on your web server. And it does not have to be a web page, it can be any file, it may be any media type. Alright, so and they utilize the HTTP protocol, or for that matter HTTPS, that is hypertext transfer protocol or hypertext transfer protocol secure. So how it starts, you make a client request, you make client makes a HTTP request, that is for example https://www.theskillpedia.com/all-courses. so you can visit this page to get all courses from the website. So this we call it as a request being sent. HTTP or HTTPS request is sent to the server. So there can be many request response cycle like this. You may you may send multiple requests or different type of requests, and once the server take the request, it responds with the result, or we call it as request. What is included in the request? When you send a HTTP request, what all information you send to the server? Let's take a look at this. HTTP request carries a lot of data with it. For example, this is a request: get all courses/index.html http:/1.1, host name is www.theskillpedia.com. so this is HTTP protocol. This tells the protocol is HTTP and version number. So HTTP verb is get here. So this verb may be get, head, put, post, or delete. This may be any of verb. And then this is the host name. This is the URI of the server. So theskillpedia.com. Then URI, it may be the it may include a path plus a resource, like all courses is the path, index.html is the resource. So it is path plus resource. So overall the request consists of a verb, a host name, a path, and a resource. All these are different components. And then we call them as HTTP headers. HTTP request, these headers like user agent, who is the client, what is the name of the browser who is sending the request. It may be Chrome, it may be Internet Explorer. So that is called user agent. When you are sending the request, the request is sent to the server. So server takes note of it, that from which browser the request is coming. Accept text HTML, accept language is English US version, accept encoding, accept character set, keep alive, connection type. These are all different headers. We call them as different headers. There are many headers here. For example, this accept is one request. The request type is accept, and there is no body in this case, but we may have a body also, right? So this is the actual HTTP request, what goes to the server to fetch the resource when you send a request. Now what response you get from the server, that is called response. Let's take a look at the response. You may get a response from the server something like this: HTTP 1.1 OK, date, server name, connection type, and some code e tag. Let's understand bits and pieces of this. 200 OK, this is, we call it as status code. There are different status code. Then this HTML head, title, heading, all these contents, this forms the payload, that is the content which comes with that. So understanding the rest with respect to these verb, these URIs, and the data which is fetched, because overall concept is precisely what I discussed with you. So we have different type of requests and kind of data we receive from that. So let's take a look at the resources. The first part is resource. So we may have oracle.example.com/ords/hr/employees. We may have another request like oracle.example.com/ords/hr departments, or another request might be HR employees/100. These are all get request. We call them as resources. What request you are getting, what resource you want to fetch from the server. So then what you get is HTTP verb. As I told you, there may be a get request, there may be a post, there may be a put, there may be a delete, there may be headers or head. These have different meanings. For example, get means read a resource or get the resource from the server. Post means create a resource on the server. Put means update or create a resource on the server. Delete means delete a resource on the server. Read means read the resource headers only. These are different HTTP verbs. Then we have HTTP codes or status codes. So this status code may be different, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There are different status codes, and this status code have different meaning, like informational, success, redirection, client error, server. There are different type of errors, like an error code for client error, meaning it that will start with 401 403, or server side error is 550 505 500. All these are server side errors. But if you get error code like 200 201, that means success. So the code starts with 1, maybe 2, maybe 3, maybe 4, maybe 5. There are 3-digit code you will get from the server. That is called status code. And then we have the media type. So media type, in media, like payload type requested by the client via HTTP parameter accept. It defines the MIME type. For example, application JSON type, or XML, or image, or GIF type image. Something, take a look at this data. Departments, this is complete resource. This is the media type resource. ID is a name, HR, finance. This is example of the data which is in the form of JSON, which is received from the server, and this is a media type, is JSON type here. So this example given at the bottom is of type application JSON. This is what you are getting from the server. So this is the concept of REST, how REST sends. What is JSON? We just talked about JSON. What is JSON? JSON basically is the data representation, and I'll call it as a NoSQL or a tree format or document form of data. It is not typical row column data. No, it is key value pair data, and key value pair represented in the form of a hierarchy. Take a look at this data. First name John, last name Smith, is alive, true, age 25, address. Now this address has multiple sub columns, or you can say sub key value pairs, like street address, city, state, postal code. Same way phone number can have sub values, right? So this is basically a very good example of understanding JSON. This is JSON example. So JSON is a standard using human readable text to transfer data objects of attribute value pairs. It is typically used in machine-to-machine communication, and it is a replacement for older XML standards which we used to use earlier. It represents textual data payloads. It is human readable. It supports validation and schemas, alternative to XML, compact mobile friendly payloads, and JavaScript has inbuilt support. This is a example data of JSON and the concept of JSON, how the data is represented in JSON. JSON blocks delimited or delineated by ellipse or that curly braces, you call that as curly braces. Key value pair separated by colon, like here colon is the separator. Key with quotes, like the key is enclosed in quotes. And string and dates with quotes. If you look at string, this is string, it is in quote. And date, if you look at date is here, it is in quote. But boolean values and numerical values are not quote, they are directly without any quote. So boolean, integers, null, all these values are without quote. Supports nesting of records. As I said, address is a value, and it can have further nesting of other key value pairs. And supports arrays or collections. It supports empty arrays or null values, and elements are comma separated. Take a look at this. Every element has a comma separation, so next element start after the comma. So elements are comma delimited. ORDS. Now you got the idea what is a REST. You got the idea what is a different verb, and you understand what is JSON. Now you are ready to understand what is Oracle RESTful Data Services. So let's take a look at that ORDS. Oracle REST Data Services provide external data access via HTTP. It is for modern development frameworks. REST is contemporary choice for JavaScript, that is web, mobile and cloud solutions. It maps standard HTTP or HTTPS request calls to SQL. Declaratively returns results in JSON format, and it supports high number of end users. That is the definition of ORDS. First release 1 and 1.1 came in 2010-2011. First release as Oracle Apex Listener with support of OWA toolkit used by Apex, support for JSON, microdata, CSV, pagination, also added FOP. That was first version and 1.1. 2 to 2.08, 2012, that is 2012, 2013, 2014. They introduced OAuth 2, that is the Google based authentication system, supports integrated with Apex multiple databases, then SQL developer integration, added PDB, that is pluggable database support, renamed to Oracle REST data services to emphasize REST commitment, and added REST filtering. Version 3 came in 2015, auto table, NoSQL, DB2, JSON and bulk loading over the REST. 17.4 version came in 2017, REST enabled SQL service. Then 18.4.0 that came in 2019, require migration of ORDS metadata schema into CDB to PDB, that is a common database to pluggable database. Then enable Apex workspace users to authenticate against ORDS based REST services. It supported WebLogic version, which we are going to do the installation of ORDS on WebLogic server. PLSQL gateway support, we are going to do that in our development in coming up sessions. And custom authentication, improve PLSQL resource handling usability. 19.1 came in April 2019, that enable ORDS to install PDB without requiring sys user or sysdba role. In fact, we have latest version in 19.2 as of today. I'm sitting on September 4, 2019. So we have 19.2 version, latest release is 19.2. So REST ORDS Oracle database. Let's understand in one slide by means of this animation step by step how it works. So what we have is a client, HTTP client or HTTPS client, and we have on the other side we have the Oracle database. So in between comes Oracle REST data services. So ORDS run in any Java container, that is WebLogic server, Tomcat or Glassfish. It comes by default with Oracle database as service, DBAS. There is also a standalone version for development purposes, and we are going to do both the installations. One standalone version, next session will be standalone installation through SQL developer, and after that we will be doing WebLogic server deployment on WebLogic server. And then enhanced version of Oracle Java, Mode, PLSQL, Apache modules. All these are features of ORDS. How it works, let's understand. When you type https://oracle.example.com/demo/sales/orders101, so this up to oracle.example.com is your host name, demo is your context root, sales is the module, and orders/101 is the template. We'll understand these components. You send this request, client makes HTTP GET request, we call it as GET request, and this is sent. Alright, this request is taken by Oracle REST data services, so it will map and bind. So ORDS maps this to orders SQL. So where we have a query for that purpose, select a star from orders where order number is equal to some parameter passed like B1. Alright, so that is called mapping and binding. After that we have a JDBC call to the database. So JDBC SQL call is sent to the database. Database result return the result, like for example name Ramnivas Sangwan, address sector for Dwarka, right? So you see the database returns the result set. Now this result set is again transformed by ORDS into JSON. So transform to JSON into or CSV or Excel or binary as per the request, as per your requirement. And then finally it is sent to HTTP request, that is becomes the response to your HTTP request. So this is the whole cycle how ORDS works. So you make a request from the browser, you send a request, it is mapped to a SQL, it is, and database execute the SQL through JDBC call. It returns the result set. Now the return results are transformed by the ORDS to the SQL, and then it is converted to JSON, which is sent as a response to your HTTP request. So summary: we send a request, HTTPS request, Oracle REST data services do maps and binding and convert it to SQL. A result set is returned by Oracle database, transformation is done by ORDS. So whatever is given in the red color, that is the job of ORDS, converted to JSON. And so app developers call named URI over HTTPS to retrieve and upgrade or update the data. Oracle REST data services developers define URI to SQL mapping and binding. Utilize the data stored in standard relational columns and tables. That's what is the job done by the ORDS, and that's how ORDS works. I'm sure you understood what is Oracle RESTful databases, Oracle REST data services, and how they work and how they get the data from the database and what kind of requests we are going to make from the browser. And this is overall introduction to Oracle RESTful data services. I hope you enjoyed it. Visit my portal theskillpedia.com for online learning on any topic. Alright, there are a lot of courses offered on discounted price. Visit the website now. Thank you so much. Bye bye.